Okay, let's talk about water pumps on the Stag. This is the one I got. Um, as you can see, there's 6 vanes. So a couple of things you want to be aware of is that the first thing is the nut, or the bolt I would say, is a left-handed threaded bolt. So the way you undo it is you actually turn it clockwise. I use my impact wrench and it will come off. As I said, it's a clock left hand thread, so to undo it's anti-clockwise. Now the thing is, what will happen is most likely it's not going to come out of your engine block. This is the complete water pump that's come out of the water engine with the brass cage. Sometimes what happens is the brass cage gets stuck inside the engine block, and that's sometimes a challenge to pull out. Now what the ROM says is to, I've made a couple of mistakes on this. One of my first water pump impellers actually broke. I put it on a 3-jaw puller and it broke. These are very, very fragile, so you want to be careful you don't drop it. I'm not sure what they're made of, but they will disintegrate. So the best way to get them off is I have a Harbor Freight press, and support the base and then press the water pump out through the so it gets off the water pump shaft. Now sometimes people do have trouble getting the water pump out of the engine block. How do you get it out? One way is you can go to James Paddock Rimmer Brothers. They sell basically what it is a left-handed bolt welded onto a hook, which you can put on to your slide hammer. I have a left-handed bolt, and it's connected to another bolt, which is a regular thread, and this goes into my slide hammer. You want to be careful. These bolts are not cheap, these left-handed ones. I don't know if you can see, but it's I actually, when I was trying to undo it, I actually tried levering it with a crowbar underneath and it bent. But anyway, so basically what you do is you put this back into the water pump, and then you attach it to your slide hammer, give it a couple of whacks, it'll come out. Now, as mentioned, it may come out with the brass cage, or it may not. Let me just put that there. But here I have some samples of, this was a new cage I got from the internet. So what happened, I had broken a impeller, and then another impeller. What happened was, here in US, okay, so here, let's talk about the impeller. So this is the impeller that's come off, and if you turn it upside down, you'll notice that this is a rusty one because it's probably sitting in an engine that wasn't moving. It's got a groove, and typically what happens is, let me get one of these things here, is this is this is not really a good one to show. Let me look for let's look for another one. Here it is. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit here. Might be easier to see. Okay, here's another the water pump complete shaft with all the bits and pieces on it. But let's talk about this. So let me take this off and walk through some of these bits and pieces. So you'll see again, left hand drive. So here, this is one that's sort of destroyed, but basically what happens is this thing, spring loaded, will rub on this thing and rotate, and that's why you get this little groove inside the impeller. So what you have to do is, when you rebuild your water pump, you want to have this surface machined flat. And some people have I can't find it now, but there's a ceramic ring that you can have glued in there so that it won't wear out as much, and then the surface of this will basically rub on the ceramic ring. I do have one in my box of goodies. I have this one I actually bought off the internet, a new water pump for about $100, because you can't buy these impellers separately. The water pump, it said, was made by RHP. However, I did find, but I didn't use the shaft. It's an unlabeled shaft, and there's always these horror stories with water pumps. You know, do you get a new one or do you reuse your old one? Now, in my 71 Purple Stag, I just rebuilt. I don't recall a name on the pump shaft, but I reused it because it was in there, assuming it was there from day one, so it's a pretty good one. However, if you just get something that has a shaft that has no name on it, I can't find it now. I think this one came with an RHP bearing, but there's no name on it. You know, I probably won't risk it. However, you know, somebody says, there's a few people who say, if you get a file and try and file some of the teeth off at this particular point on the gear, you can tell if it's good or not. So, but there are a couple of brands that are good. This one I think is called Zephyr, which I've heard is a very good brand. People rely on that. This one here is another brand. I forget the brand, but I can't make it. UT something. And what, no one's really confirmed anything about types of water pumps, but I feel that if the water pump has a brand on it, brand name, a stamp on it, they're good. And the reason why I say that is because I've had my Stag for 20 years, and I look out for people complaining about their water pumps destroying their cars, but no one has really said, oh, this particular brand with this label on it has disintegrated. It's typically the water pump shaft that has no name on it that can be the issue. So I remember when I first took my water pump out, I broke the impeller, and I got one from someone out of UK. This was predates eBay, and they gave me this one, and I don't know if you can see, the height is different. It is also slightly smaller than the original one that came in the Stag engine. So that was something, but I did use it, and when I had the opportunity to rebuild my water pump again, I did take it out and put another one in there. So a couple of things. This water pump, there's this thing called a flinger, and that will fling water, and sometimes it is difficult to take off because it's rusted onto the shaft, but just be super careful. They are available separately. I think LD Parts carries them separately. And some of the new modern ones, I've been told that they don't have this groove, not the groove, what's it called, a nulled serrated edge that doesn't correctly, and doesn't hold the impeller in the on the shaft. Now let's say you do have a problem, water pump comes out, but your brass cage gets stuck inside the engine. You may want to rig up something. You may, you know, probably try and grip the edges, maybe grip the bottom and pull it out. Another thing, what I've noticed is some of the cages that you get, these brass things, won't fit. They're too tight. You may need to machine it. I did have a situation where one of these, I can't remember, wouldn't fit very easily into my engine, so I have a couple of spare. I don't know which ones are good. I have another brand of water pump, and I think with a label on it, UG, this one UG something, UGW. I did post a message on Facebook, and I think Tony Hart at the time said this is a good brand as well, so I have kept that as well. So that was one thing. Here is that ceramic ring that I found that some people have machined into the top of, I think it's ceramic, yeah, of the impeller. Now there is some discussion about the type of seal you get, and LD Parts seems to have some TR Remington seems to have the original, because there is it's spring loaded, and people say that some of them produce too much tension on the water pump impeller, and they can eventually damage the take wear out of your car, jack shaft at least. Let's see if I can pull this one out. But this is another one that I can't, it's stuck sort of. So yeah, that's a little thing on water pumps. I'm going to go ahead and remove this impeller. I have a colleague who I think someone else had, no, this is the new one, but I'll have to get that one machined. So I thought, let me go ahead and disassemble it, get it machined, so if whoever the next owner of my Stag takes it and decides to either do away with it completely and put an electric one in, or rebuild it, they have the choice. So yeah, these are all my miscellaneous bits of thing. Another interesting thing is I bought a new bearing. This isn't that new bearing, but the new bearing felt very rough, and so I decided to reuse the old one, and it seems to be okay. This one's an old one. This one's I think one of the originals. It's got that Hoffman brand on it. It's not even RHP, I think, Hoffman, so I think it's one of the originals. So yeah, that's my sorry for my long-winded 11-minute video on water pumps. And again, this is the Mark 1. It's a 6-vane water pump. Just to make you aware, some people say here's a 6-vane water pump better than a 12-vane water pump. The 12-vane water pumps don't have the curved water pump. The vanes, they're flat actually. Now, if you do decide to switch, because someone said, yeah, go switch and get a 12-vane one instead of a 6-vane one, the water pump cover is different as well. So you want to make sure you get the matching water pump cover for your water pump, depending on the number of vanes. I'm assuming it doesn't really, the impeller can be interchangeable between the various shafts. I don't think there's any difference there. But again, the water pump cover is unique to that particular impeller that you get.